Good morning. I'm Jim McGinnis, out here in my backyard. This is something I've been working on lately. It's called identity. Who are we? What do we stand for? This is about finding our way back, so we call it identity. The carpenter stood up, the soldier and the nurse spoke out. The poet stopped writing about palm trees and sunsets for a while, long enough to preach the gospel of Madison, Jefferson, Adams. And the doctor, the mason, and the judge started making a list. Not of things we say that we oppose, like kings and such. No, their list was of things we stand for here in America. What makes us nod our heads and say, yeah, that's us. Remembering is an act of resistance, and resistance to becoming something that we're not. So, in a way, this is a reminder. There's more, I'm sure, but here's a start. Won't you take your time and try to avoid the yes buts? Who are we anyway? We Americans are optimistic. We believe in the long term. We work for the good of our children's children. We improvise. We rise to the occasion, whatever comes our way. We believe in fair play. We don't like standing in line, but we will. Hey, no buts. Americans are compassionate. We believe that the powerful have a responsibility to the powerless. We love music. We know it's magic, and we know it brings us together, even without our permission. We are wise enough to know that America is an idea, not a race or a culture, an idea. Tough enough to pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off. We like the word rally. Americans are conservative in that we hate dogma and ideology from the right or the left. We're liberal in our belief that there's more than one way to live, more than one way to do something. We love laughter. It reminds us not to take ourselves so damn seriously. Americans are humble because we appreciate the role of luck in our lives. There but for the accident of birth, or the grace of God, or the mystery of fate go I. I think Michael Sandel said that. We know that our government can be wasteful and corrupt, but other times it can save many lives. We're okay with the fact that our country got its start in taverns and pirate ships. Americans find a way to serve in big ways, small ways, and in between. We fix that which is broken. Well, we know that one size does not fit all, in hats or government programs. We're proud of our heritage and our cultures and our sources of our immigration. Americans are human enough to know that we are walking contradictions, humble enough to admit that we haven't read the Constitution, but willing to start. We grasp liberty as a spiritual idea. Freedom is a chance to find our own way. Hey, we're goofy enough to believe that we're born exceptional, when the fact is we're born free to travel dirt roads of opportunity. We're all ordinary, but capable of extraordinary things. That's that divine spark, right? It's in there somewhere. We understand that the First Amendment is there to protect us from other people's religion. You from mine, me from yours. We understand that the First Amendment is there to protect our right to be heard and also our right to listen. Americans are idealistic in that we try to treat others the way we wish to be so treated. We root for the underdog. We love Cinderella stories. We think it's okay to be corny and cheesy at times, loud, obnoxious, and fiercely independent. Others, at others. Americans believe in the middle way, always have. We are patriotic enough to search for common ground, reverent enough to respect our sacred institutions, the Constitution, the monuments, the statues, the buildings, the process. Honest enough to admit we fell asleep in history class. I know who you are. No worries. Now it's time to wake up. We know that important distinctions are made between individuals and not between groups. Americans believe in protecting the wilderness in the great wide open. Ethical enough to know that real reform must come from within. We're distrustful of privilege and power, even our own. Brave enough to fight for what we believe in. Americans are worldly enough to realize that markets dominated by large corporations offer no more freedom than an autocratic government. We have the humility to know that we're not always right. Conscientious enough to know that there is nothing conservative about turning a blind eye to reckless speculation and greed. And there is nothing liberal about granting freedom to someone at the expense of others. Brave enough to admit that we can be torn on moral issues. There are times when those of us with the strongest of faith must say, I just don't know. We're kind. We help each other. Americans know what due process is, the only right mentioned twice in the Constitution. We're practiced enough to know that nothing comes from before freedom and equality. Oppression is oppression, regardless of its intent or its disguise. Unselfish enough not to worry about who gets the credit in solving our problems. Many ideas started on the other side of the aisle. Go figure. Pragmatic enough to know that taxation is the price we pay for civilization. We know that equality should not infringe upon the liberty of others. We're skeptical enough to realize that an ideological politician is just as dangerous as a corrupt one. If he's both, well, look out. We Americans are generous. We take care of each other. Americans are bold enough not to care who wins the argument and tough enough to listen. Tough enough to listen. Stubborn enough to demand that the protection of personal liberty, free association, and free exchange of ideas must be at the top of our priorities. You know, there's an old proverb, no matter how far you go down the wrong road, turn back. Can we live up to all of these on the list? Not always. Being a good citizen is hard. That's the beauty of it. Like putting a man on the moon or playing baseball. Maybe you should make a copy of this and reread it a few times. Thank you and fair winds.